One of the lyrics, I don't know if the video uploaded yet, but the song, if you take a look at the lyrics, take a listen. The song is called No Expectations by an artist called Shift to Abundance. And one of the lyrics that she says is that she learned that people can only meet you as far as they've healed. You don't get hurt by what they do, you get hurt by the story in your mind. And for those of us who've been wronged by others and were mishandled or, fill in the blanks of that, where somebody legitimately hurt you. You're probably asking yourself, like, no, they clearly did something, right? Right. That line is not dismissing what they did. It's inviting you to go deeper than that. Where with that person did you expect them to do anything different? Because, follow me here, people show you who they are with their patterns. Okay? And I'm part of the audience that I'm speaking to here because this was something that I had to learn the hard way with loved ones. Okay? With family. People are always showing you who they are. Their patterns are very clear. Now, where is it in ourselves that we chose to override the reality that's being presented to us and believe something different? I'll give you an example. One of the family members I no longer speak with, they have a pattern of manipulation, blaming, belittling, minimizing, threatening, whatever. Okay? That has always been their pattern. Always. It's never not been there. Okay? At one point in the journey, I thought I accepted that about this person, but apparently I didn't. So when they did it again, I got hurt. But I didn't get hurt just because they did it again. I got hurt because for some reason I thought that they wouldn't do it again. Okay, I hope you're understanding where I'm going with this. Like, people show you who they are. When we accept them for who they are, we can appropriately place them accordingly in our lives, if at all. But when we choose to see the potential in someone, or we choose to see whatever narrative we would like to see more of from them, and we choose to go with that story instead, and they don't do it because they don't have to live up to that. It's our story, not theirs. We can't change people. Even if the version of them that lived in our head was better than the reality, it doesn't matter, because it's not our job to change them or help change them or fix them or save them from themselves or whatever. It's not our job. So, take a deep breath. When we don't accept the reality of who people are presenting themselves to be, they're showing you through their patterns, through their behavior, through not what they say they value, but what their behavior proves they value. They're showing you who they are. And when we don't believe them and we choose to believe a different version of them in our head, it doesn't stop the patterns. That was a quiet negotiation we made with ourselves to put an expectation on this person. Even if you did tell the person you're expecting this from them, it doesn't mean the person's now going to change. Because whatever patterns they're showing is their current truth. It's why it's a pattern. The only person that could change that person is themselves. And that was something else I can relate to that I learned the hard way, because I did everything to try to help them. Everything. And it doesn't matter, because if the person is committed to the patterns they have, there's nothing you can do. And unless the person wants to change, there's nothing anyone can do. It doesn't matter. And it's one thing for somebody to tell you they want to change, but it's a completely different story when you see that they continuously commit themselves to the patterns and defend it. So it's not necessarily that they continue to be who they are that hurts us beyond that point. It's us not accepting the reality of who they are that hurts us. Because until we accept the reality of the person in front of us, and accept does not mean access. Accept does not mean that all of their behavior is excused. It just means you're no longer creating a expectation, hope, or internal narrative about this person that doesn't match the current reality of who they are. Okay? So accepting is finally dropping the potential you think would come from it. You're dropping the narrative you have of them in your head, even if it's 10 times better than the reality of what they're showing you. And you're finally seeing the reality of the person. You're saying, okay, like accepting them for who they are is basically saying, okay, I see that this is who you are. It's not who I think you are. This is who you are. Okay. And then now going from there and placing them accordingly in your life, if at all. Okay. When we don't accept the reality of the people in front of us, that's where we get hurt. Because now not only are we not accepting reality, which causes a whole nother tumble of effects, like we start ignoring the red flags, we start ignoring the patterns or overlooking them or making excuses for it or whatever. Now we are participating in a toxic dynamic, but it's also they're going to continue with their patterns. And when the pattern keeps showing up, it's only going to hurt us because we are telling ourselves a different story. So again, it's not that their behavior doesn't hurt, but it wouldn't be so like it would still hurt, but it wouldn't I don't know, like it wouldn't cut as deep, I guess, because you would be expecting it if you understood and accepted the person in front of you for who they are rather than what you think they should be. Okay? You would see it coming. And so really a quick thing about potential is always a projection of what we would do in their shoes. But when we see potential in someone, we're not actually seeing who they could be. We're seeing a projection of ourselves in them. So keep that in mind too, because you may think you know the potential of this person, but most people don't know how to, or aren't aware of the difference between projecting and actually seeing someone, because we don't actually know where this person's potential is, because people have a million different choices of directions they can go in and a million different versions of themselves that they can end up being. So whatever we think their potential is just us projecting ourselves onto them. What would we do if we were them? But that's not fair to the person either, because they're not you, and they're not going to do what you would do. You both have very different paths, very different purposes, very different perspectives and histories, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Keep that in mind about potential. Basically hoping for more of you in them. Okay? But that's not them. But yeah, you don't get hurt by what they do, you get hurt by the story in your mind. Yes, what people do can hurt, but if you see the reality of the person and not a projection of them or of you and them, and you actually see the patterns in front, you can actually see it coming from a mile away. And it doesn't hurt as much. It's not that it won't hurt at all, but it won't hurt anywhere near as much. But if you start creating a story in your mind, especially without their permission, or even if you did tell them the story in your mind that you think you have of them, who you think they are, and even if they agreed, but then you see the patterns continue down a different path, you have to come to grips with the reality that this person is, whether they actually meant what they told you or not, their patterns are vividly telling you that this is their current truth. And if you keep trying to change that, now you're going to rip your own heart open. You're going to break your own heart because you're chasing something that's clearly telling you it's not going that way. And that's where you got to take a step back and love yourself enough to realize, like, I'm hurting me trying to chase something that's not there. Even if what's in my head is beautiful, I'm chasing it alone because this person's patterns don't match with what I think is happening. There's a disconnect between the reality of what their patterns show and whatever you have in your head. So it's really important, okay, to be accountable for the stories that you have in your head of people versus the reality of who these people truly are. The only way you'll know how to place people accordingly in your life is by first accepting the reality of who they are. And again, acceptance does not mean does not mean access. Acceptance means you're no longer creating any kind of story in your head of this person. You're just really observing their patterns separate of your projections and your expectations and hopes. Separate of your judgment. You are observing this person's patterns and you see that this is who they choose to be currently. And then from there, you place them accordingly in your life, if at all. Hope this helps. Much love.